everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, today I am demonstrating a straight pour, but I'm also going to get a little bit into some color theory and how to create your own custom colors and how I created this here color. Yeah, so the colors I am using. I have, for my base coat slash background color, it is Titanium White from Liquitex Basics, Quinacridone Magenta, and like 2 pea-sized drops of the Quinacridone Magenta. And the Aqua Green from Artist Loft. There is green in this pink, and it kind of gives it a slightly purplish effect, and we're going to talk about that. For my cell makers, I have the DecoArt Americana Decor Metallics and Antique Bronze, Soft Gold, and Ivory Pearl. And so these will be my cell makers. I am going for Boulder cells. And these colors are meant to be contrasting in a certain way with this color. We will get to that. But first, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute. But if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all of the instructions that you need, the exact paint colors, consistency, recipe, and all that stuff. This is a picture of the painting in that particular video. This box here contains a tip for that particular technique, and down here at the bottom we have the color palette that was used in that particular painting. Oh, also, these 2 boxes can be used as the basis of a 2-color palette. So you can build off of those colors or just use 2 colors. You can get some really cool effects when you go very minimalist. And there are 8 bonus color palette cards. Each color palette card has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors, mix and match the color palettes with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also on Amazon.com. And if you get them from Amazon, please do leave feedback. It's very helpful. Okay, so let's talk about color theory for a moment. I have here the Titanium White, the Magenta, and the Aqua Green. It didn't necessarily have to be Aqua Green. It was literally just sitting there left over from my last painting, and instead of going over yonder to look for another green, I just grabbed that one. Worked just fine. So we're going to take some of this white and mix some of this pink with it. I'm sorry, the magenta. Okay, and that gives a very bright pink color. But if you want to tone that down, let me actually mix a little more so I can split these up and show you. Okay, so we can see just how pink this color is. Now, if I take just a bit of this green and mix it in there, it creates a purple. A very soft, muted purple. And this is how you get if you're painting flowers and you're going for realistic colors and you're trying and it's just not working quite right, just add a dab of green and see if that helps, because when you think about it, there is green in that plant, even if it is intermingled with yellows or oranges or and so a lot of times that's how you can get to a more realistic, natural color for flowers. But just keep it. You can change the hue of it by adding white to it. This is not the best color palette for me to be mixing, or best palette for me to be mixing my colors. I just wanted something to demonstrate with. But you can see this color is just a lighter version of that. So if you have a color that you don't like, you have a color in your arsenal that you got and you thought it was going to be beautiful and you put it on your canvas and you were like, oh dear, add to it whatever's opposite on the color wheel. So you get yourself a color wheel and have that as a reference, and the opposite of red is green. So like if you're doing your makeup and you have redness on your skin, you use a green color corrector to cancel out that red. If you have painted your walls red and you want to change the color, put some green in your primer to help cancel that out, because the red will bleed through. So knowing what the colors are on the opposite side of the color wheel can really help you in a lot of ways, but particularly when you want to mix softer, more muted colors, that's how you get it. So that is my my lesson on how I come up with my custom colors quite often, is just grab something on the opposite side of the color wheel, because I wasn't going for that pink. I didn't want it to be quite that pink. Let's try to see if you can really get that color properly. I will get this lighting right eventually, y'all. I'm telling you, this is like such a struggle, and I have a feeling the only way I'm going to be able to fix it is to spend a whole lot of money on an overhead system. But there we go. Okay, and so adding the green to the magenta, or the aqua green to the magenta, toned that down and gave me like this color that's in between pink and purple. To tone that down even more, I have some brown family. And when you put the colors together, it doesn't have such a pastel Easter egg type feeling. It's just magic. It's magical. I love it. That's why I keep doing these. I just love how the colors play together. But all right, let's get to painting. I forgot to mention, these paints are mixed 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. And that mixture is then thinned with my concoction of 90% water and 10% Floetrol until I get to the consistency that I'm looking for, which is, if I can get out of the shadow, it is a 2 on my consistency scale. It is, oh, there's light. There's some light. There's a little pocket of light. It is making a mound, but it disappears pretty quickly. Okay, let's lay down a base coat. I have already covered my edges. I like to cover my edges first because I mix my straight pores pretty thin, and I want to make sure that, oh dear, you know what I didn't do? I didn't put my paint in the cup first, and that's why I always do that, because now I'm like, oh, am I gonna have enough? It's all right, I got this. Right, so that is why I put my paint in the cup before I lay down my base coat. I generally, in a straight pour, use the same color for my background and my base coat. The base coat is what I am putting on the canvas right now. The base coat covers your canvas. The background is basically the first color that goes in the cup, and it is the paint that helps to create the reaction between the paints that give those awesome boulder cells. So what is causing these paints to react is a hydrophobic reaction between the matte paints and the paints that have more of a glossy finish to them. And so the DecoArt Satin Enamels, the DecoArt Metallics, they all dry very matte. The matte metallics, the regular metallics, they just all seem to dry matte. And when you use them with something in the Liquitex line, most of the Liquitex line will, and opaque, that's important too. It needs to be an opaque paint. It needs to be heavy enough. And yeah, it just, I don't know exactly why it needs to be opaque, but it does work better with opaques. So if I were to try to use magenta as a background, I wouldn't get quite the same reaction, even though magenta does have a bit of a gloss to it. All right, let's pop these bubbles. All right, let's put some paint in the cup. So the reason that we lay down the background, or the base coat, the reason we lay down a base coat on our canvas is so our paints have something to slide around on. I'm reserving just a bit of this to put on top of the cup at the end. Now, do I want the center to be lighter and get darker, or do I want the center to be darker and get lighter? The way that that goes in the cup will determine that. I think, oh, geez. You know, I've changed my mind on this like 4 times already. I think I want it to be lighter to darker. Okay. I will go with my original instinct, checking the consistency before I pour, because the sauce may thicken upon standing. Pouring from up high, I want this to blend. That's how I get the boulder cells. Those colors blend and churn. But yeah, so I put a base coat on so that the paint has something to slide around on and stretch out on. If your pour puddle is the first thing to hit your canvas, you're going to lose everything that's on the edge, because something has to stick to the canvas, and it's going to be whatever on the edge of your puddle, and the paint will just roll over top of itself. Okay, and actually, usually I go in like kind of a lightest to darkest or darkest to lightest, but I think I'm going to put the darkest in the middle this time. Do something different. I know it looks like, oh, another straight pour, oh, another straight pour, but every single thing that I change can give a very different effect. How the paints go in the cup, where they go in the cup, what kind of cup, what kind of paints, what kind of mood am I in? That seems to have an effect on how my paintings turn out. All right, and now for the soft gold. And these little spatulas from the Fluid Art company are awesome for getting like every last scrap of paint out of your cup. Okay, now I'm going to take what was left and go over top, because these paints are already popping up and selling and they need a paint to react to sell. If I put nothing but the DecoArt Americana Decor paints in a cup with no paint for it to react with, it won't do anything. It'll be pretty. You'll get that gradient pour that I was going for when I discovered the straight pour. All right, let's make a mess, shall we? Varying the height at which you are pouring will have a different effect, because if you pour from higher, there will be more churning. And if you get closer, it'll be a little more distinctive. And the closer I get to the end of my cup, closer I will get to the canvas. Being very careful about what I'm doing in the center, because it will be stretched out and it will become the focal point. Would have been a 10 on this mount if I hadn't stuck my finger in it, but I think it's all right. Okay, and now to pop bubbles. This technique creates a ton of bubbles. It creates a ton of bubbles, but that's okay, because what happens? The bubbles that are in the underlying layers are going to try to come up. And as they come up to the top, they bring paint with it from below. And if I were using paints that weren't cell makers, those little pinpoints that come up would just annoy me, because I don't like the little pin type, little pinhead cells. But because they're hydrophobic, they will spread out. They will push away the background paint. And so getting those bubbles in there is actually not a bad thing. If I were doing a ring pour, I would not want those bubbles. But because I want the cells, I do want the bubbles. I don't mind them. Now the longer I let this sit, the more cells will be popping up. And you'll see these little pin cells that just popped when I torched are going to spread out. They're going to push that other paint away. We'll see how I feel about what I did in the center there. I did something a little different. Not sure if I like it yet. Be able to tell better once it's spread out, stretched. We shall see. But yes, this is one of the most important steps. And if you're trying to go for Boulder cells, this is one of the most important steps, where you just sit here and do nothing. Truly. If you need to set a timer for yourself, so that you don't mess with it before you should, you can do that. If you say, I'm gonna go wash those dishes or whatever, you know, just give yourself a little 5-minute chore. It will make such a big difference. And that was something I discovered on accident too. So, you know, on video 15, I discovered like more of the, I call them pop-up cells. Other people call them pearl cells now, but they popped up after I poured out of the cup. You know, it came out of the cup and all you saw was purple, and it was like, oh boy, that was a big fail. And I stretched it out and all crazy yellow cells everywhere and green cells. And then the next day I used some different colors and got a completely different reaction. But what happened, my torch wasn't working. And so my puddle just sat there for like a while before I was able to get my torch to work again. And when I came back, there were all these crazy cells on there. The whole thing was almost fully cells. And then it was just a matter of stretching them out and not messing them up. So, most of the coolest things are discovered by accident, and then doing everything that you can to repeat them. Okay, so probably what's going to happen is I'm going to tilt this over this way. I'm going to get some Boulder cells over here. When I come back this way, this area is going to stretch, and then I'm going to get a lot of pop-up cells on this side. It came out of the cup quite typically. But I like the way the colors are playing together already. Sometimes it's almost an illusion to the eye. Like if you use aqua and copper together, it looks like they're glowing. And then there's other colors that you can put together, and it has this effect where it's just like, it's like soothing to the eye. I don't even know how to explain it. And I'm trying to tilt very slowly. That will help me to maintain the composition as much as possible. I think I may have actually been a little short on paint this time. So I'm busting out my color catcher. Corner catcher. Okay, now I think I'm going to come back and do this opposite corner. This is already setting up for a corner, so I will go there first, or next, I should say. And I know it feels like it's never going to get there, but if you have ever had a canvas that wasn't level, and you wake up in the morning and you see how much it's changed, you know it will move. However slowly. Okay, and now bringing the paint back to center before I change directions. Always being mindful of where the center of your weight is, where the weight of your paint is. That's going to help you control your paint. Like how I'm using it to basically make a corner right here. Oh, I don't like it when it does that. Let me get that right there. A little bit more, a little bit more. Okay. And again, coming back to center, bringing it across. Gosh, I really like what's happening here. I kind of hate to lose that, but I don't like how it would, composition wise, don't really care for it just with that one corner. Okay, I am slowing down because I was moving way too fast. And then I see I've got some of my pop-up cells that are coming up. Yay. Right on command. It's like, am I a control freak? No, I just took a totally random art form and figured out how to tame it and do exactly what I wanted. Not a control freak at all. Okay. And now bringing the weight of the paint back to center. Again, the weight of the paint is where it's moving the fastest, and that gets harder to see as you tilt all the paint off because you tilted a bunch of paint off. Now I'm just trying to adjust my composition to where I want. I think I need a bit more stretch on this, so I'm going to have to lose some of those pearl cells. But I am more worried about my overall composition. More cells will pop up. In fact, because I'm stretching it, there'll probably be a lot more cells that pop up. As you stretch it, that top layer gets thinner and allows the hydrophobic paints that are sitting underneath to break on through to the other side. And the more you move it around mindfully, the more cells may pop up as well, because you're giving it that opportunity to stretch and for those bubbles to pop and bring up paint. Okay, yep, I like that composition better for sure. Really, really cool cells happening up here. Look like little asteroids. Love the way the colors are playing together. I'm going to let this sit and do what it does, and I will bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. Lots of cool pop-up cells in this one. Up here in the corner, they actually look so 3D. They kind of look like asteroids, or the meteor shower that we should have gotten. I don't know if y'all went out to see the meteor shower that was supposed to be. They were saying like 1,000 an hour, but it wound up being like 50. And I didn't see any. But here it is. So you can see that that pink does not really look pink against those other colors. It's like this mysterious thing that happens when the colors are next to each other. It's a little more pink than what's showing up on my screen right now. Like to the eye. That's kind of... The camera is confused. Let me see if I back out, if I can... Yeah, that's better. I think it just gets confused sometimes by these metallics. But I'm digging it. I like everything that's happening here. Oh, I just hit some kind of setting on my phone. Oh geez. All right. I don't know what I did. But I'm really digging the way this turned out. It's a very interesting composition to me. I really dig the cells that I got, the pop-up cells. I got some nice Boulder cells as well. I mean, let's not just poo-poo on them. I mean, they came out pretty cool. If I can, I don't know what I did to my phone. I just did something. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. That really helps out the creators that you are watching, not just for me, but for all of them. You know, sharing is caring. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Always appreciated, never expected. You will find the links to my affiliates, DecoArt, who makes these magical cell making paints. If you enter through that link provided in my description box, I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. And that goes as well for the links to the other affiliates, which are Blick and Amazon and Arteza. And you will also find in the description box my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And last but not least, you will find the link to our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. You know how it goes. All right, that's it for me. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.